Welcome to Little Owl Literacy. Today we're going to be talking about audiobooks. Some people have asked, is it okay to let your kids listen to audiobooks? Is there any literacy value to that? Yes, there is. A valuable way for them to consume stories and text, and still a way for them to work on comprehension and cognitive skills. Don't be afraid to use audiobooks. Download them from the library. If you've got an account with Audible, great. And let your child listen to them, but do your best to continue to engage with them just the way that you would if they were reading an actual book. Ask them questions, have them pause and see if they're comprehending what they've just heard. One of the dangers of audiobooks is that you can kind of get into that mode where you disconnect from the voice of the narrator and start thinking about other things. And then suddenly you've lost a whole chunk of the story. So it's a really good idea to kind of front load your child with information on how to stay focused when they're listening to audiobooks, and to remind them that if their mind starts wandering, that maybe it's time to put the book aside, or maybe it's time to try a different activity, or maybe they can just refocus and try again, especially if they can rewind and listen to that part over again. Keep talking to them about the book, ask them about the theme, ask them about the plot, ask them for summaries, keep monitoring their comprehension levels. Obviously, you don't want to go heavy on the audiobooks and light on the actual reading, but there's nothing wrong with listening to audiobooks. It's a great way to get them invested in stories. For struggling readers, audiobooks can be fantastic. If they're listening to an audiobook as a solitary activity, that can take an enormous amount of stress off of them, the kind of stress that they face every time they look at the written word on a page. So this is a great way for them to allow themselves to build a love of stories and books without all of that negative emotion that goes with actually reading a book. A great way for you to help a struggling reader bridge the activity of listening to an audiobook and reading a book is to have them do both at the same time. So remember that audiobook narrators typically speak a little bit more slowly than we might when we're reading. So this is a little bit of a more relaxed pace for a struggling reader, and they can follow along with the audiobook in the text version of the book. This is something that I did as a child all the time, quite naturally, just because that was all we had to do. And it's really quite a pleasurable activity. This is a really great way for you to help your struggling reader build those positive connections with books and with reading. It also takes the pressure off of them to be able to come up with the words on their own. The more they see the words on the page and hear the narrator saying them, the more they're going to be able to have more of a sight recognition for each one of those words. As they listen to the audiobook and look at the words on the page, it's going to help them build that sight memory for words. So don't be afraid of using audiobooks. They're a great tool in literacy practice.